So my A is not really done until I've taken an opportunity to elaborate. Now, what do I mean by elaborate? Elaborate means go deeper into the point by making a connection that my readers don't expect maybe, or that my readers wouldn't themselves make, so that I'm offering something original and beneficial with the paragraph that I'm writing. So there's multiple ways that I can elaborate. I can give examples, I can give anecdotes, I can give analogies, I can give descriptions, I can do all kinds of things to elaborate. So in this situation, I really want to focus on how this ties into regular life, day-to-day life, because again, my prompt has asked me to explore how journeys affect the people who observe the journeys. And we're observing the journey by watching this movie. So I really want to connect to everyday life. So it says, this demonstrates since Everett and his men had no clue about the danger these women pose, they were unable to avoid it by taking precautionary steps. So I'm going to use this transition right here, similarly, and that's simply to let my reader know that I'm about to do a comparison. I'm about to say something that would agree with the information that I just got through putting down. That's why I would say similarly. So similarly, all right, similarly, people fall prey to temptation all the time in everyday life. And I'm not done there. Just because I say this is something I've been noticing in your papers. Just because I say this doesn't mean that I'm done. I've got to explain what this means. I got to go deeper into this. That's what elaboration means. If I just left it at this, all I have is a baby elaboration that has yet to hatch, has yet to do anything beneficial, and my reader is just kind of left confused, wondering what I mean by this. So similarly, people fall prey to temptation all the time in everyday life. So now, reader, let's think. What are some situations in which people fall prey to temptation? So there's the big ones, right? There's gambling, there's drugs, there's all kinds of things, right? Well, let's say in this situation, the women provided a temptation and they fell for it and got stolen from. So someone getting damaged with money, maybe, for example, temptation. All right, so I want to go with maybe gambling, okay? So similarly, people fall prey to temptation all the time in everyday life. The gambler, for instance, is completely captivated, I'm gonna have to scroll here, captivation, that's not good. Captivated, let me scroll, and I am scrolling. Captivated by the possibility of winning, let's just say, winning tons of money. That just seems kind of... The gambler, for instance, is completely captivated by the possibility of winning, let's just say, for now, a lot of money. I may go revise that later into something that sounds better, but for right now, I can put it as a placeholder. The gambler, for instance, is completely captivated by the possibility of winning a lot of money. So, and most I put that comma there for that so, because I'm about to use a compound sentence here. The gambler, for instance, is completely captivated by the possibility of winning a lot of money, so he may not realize that he has, or say that he risks losing all of his money. All right, so the gambler, for instance, is completely captivated by the possibility of winning a lot of money, so he may not realize that he risks losing all of his money. Many gamblers who wish to avoid this limit themselves to a small amount of money they are willing to lose. Once this is gone, they are unable to continue gambling. All right. So now that I've talked about this gambling with some depth, I've given myself a bit of an elaboration. As you'll notice how long this A is now because I've elaborated that far. I've got myself some nice elaboration here so that my reader can kind of see the point that I'm trying to make. And actually, I think that I can tie this gambling point into my second evidence pretty well so that my reader's not confused by this. So now I'm ready for my T. So this is going to be my T, which stands for transition. So I'm going to say furthermore, and that lets my reader know, hey, I got more to tell you. So now I want to mention my next source. So my first source is, O brother, where art thou? So I mentioned that and quoted that up here, O brother, where art thou? But now I want to talk about the Odyssey. So furthermore, and I'm going to underline this because it is a longer work. It is oh no, that's not it. Okay, so in the Odyssey by Homer, all right, now I'm using my commas here. Furthermore, in the Odyssey by Homer, Odysseus asks his men to, and I'm going to go to the text. I'm going to go to the text and I'm going to find my E2. All right, I'm going to find my E2s. In fact, let me go ahead and right here in this little spot, I'm going to write E2. That way you know that I've moved to my E2, because E2 happens right after this transition. So transition to furthermore, then I'm going to my next piece of evidence, which all matches up to KEATEAL. So if I'm looking at this as a checklist, I'm right here right now. Okay, I've done this, 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 and this. Now I'm building this evidence. So I'm going back down here. Furthermore, in the Odyssey by Homer, Odysseus asks his men to, and I'm looking at the text now, and I'm going to start quoting. And it says right here in line 117, it says, they tied me up then plumb amidships, back to the mast, lashed to the mast, and took themselves again to rowing. Now, I can't say tied me up, asks his men to tied me up. So I really don't have, I really need to change that so that it fits the flow of my sentence. So so he asks his men to tie, and I'm changing this, me up, tie me up, then, ooh, hello, should be a comma, then plumb amidships, and I'm just going to say dot, 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 because I'm removing some of this, lashed to the mast. Tie me up, then plumb amidship, lashed to the mast. And so what I'm noticing here, and all I'm trying to do is prove that he asked him to tie him up. Odysseus asked his men to tie me up, so that doesn't make too much sense. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to open up this bracket a little bit more so that I can borrow the language and still be grammatically correct. So furthermore, in the Odyssey by Homer, Odysseus asks his men to tie him up, then plumb amidships, lashed to the mast. So I've got that in quotes. Now I feel pretty good. So this is directly from the Odyssey, quoted directly from it, and I can use it to make my point. So now that I've done that E2, I'm ready for my A2. Now, because I elaborated a lot up here in this A1, I may not have to elaborate a ton in this A2, but if I can, and if I can make a connection between these two elaborations so that my reader understands the point more clearly, then that's to my credit, and that's going to help my score. So furthermore, in the Odyssey by Homer, Odysseus asks his men to tie him up, then plumb amidships, lashed to the mast. So let me do a little bit of explaining so I can tell my reader how this proves my point. Okay, so I'm going to say basically, Odysseus asks this because he was warned by Circe, the witch, that if he wanted to hear the siren's song, he must protect himself by ensuring that he could not move. Odysseus asked this because he was warned. Notice I didn't put this right here. Bam. He was warned Always got to read over your stuff, guys. Odysseus asks this because he was warned by Circe the witch that if he wanted to hear the sirens possessive song, he must protect himself by ensuring that he could not move. He must protect himself by ensuring that he could not move. Okay. Now I'm transitioning. I'm going to dig a little bit deeper. In this way, comma, Odysseus is able to benefit from the fun of temptation without falling into its dangers. And I kind of want to connect to my earlier point. Like the gambler who limits his spending, Odysseus limits his risk of dying at the hands of such cruel monsters. Hello. So let's go back and read that, make sure that sounds good. So it says, furthermore, in the Odyssey by Homer, Odysseus asked his men to, quote, tie him up, then plumb amidships, lashed to the mast. Odysseus asked this because he was warned by Circe, the witch, that if he wanted to hear the siren song, he must protect himself by ensuring that he could not move. In this way, Odysseus is able to benefit from the fun of temptation without falling into its dangers. Like the gambler who limits his spending, Odysseus limits his risk of dying at the hands of such cruel monsters. Well, now I'm at my L. I'm almost there, guys. So basically, I'm at the last section I got to have here. So, link. L stands for link back to thesis. Now remember, I've got to get to this part right here. The journeys of others teach us important lessons. I've spent this whole paragraph talking about this part. Like that temptation is always present in life but can be avoided with proper preparation. Remember, my essay is not about temptation. My essay is about the importance of the journey and what people learn from journeys. So, I'm going to move down and I'm going to reference that in my link. So I'm going to say, therefore, because of the different levels of preparedness displayed by our journeyers, readers are able to observe the benefits I want to screw the dangers. Able to observe the problems that arise when temptation strikes us unaware. So therefore, because of the different levels of preparedness displayed by our journeyers, readers are able to observe the problems that arise when temptation strikes us unaware. So notice that I mentioned readers and I mentioned journeyers. These two ticks right here, super important because I want to make sure they understand, my reader understands why I'm writing this essay to start with. Okay, so pulling everything back, we can look at what we got here on this KEATEAL. And what I may do is upload this to my file page on my website, but you can look at this as sort of a way to get started with your Odyssey paragraphs. You guys have a great afternoon and a great weekend, because today's Friday when I'm doing this. But if you're looking at this later, I hope that you're able to get something from it. If not, email me, let me know in class. Y'all take care. Dilmore out.